So warmly welcome for the day 5 and element 5 we are going to start today. But remember, as I mentioned yesterday, that element 1 to 4 is all about IG1. That means our exam relevant to scenario and the questions we're going to get from NEBOSH would be covered from element 1 to 4. But rest of the elements starting from 5 up to 11 is all about the hazards, risk and their control. So that means they would help us in our risk assessment project for IG2. So we'll be just discussing against every sort of hazard, either it's noise, vibration, ionizing radiation or chemicals or any sort of hazard. We'll be discussing how to identify them, how to control them, how to put some precautions in place. So that would be our triangle, for rest of the remaining elements, like starting from element number 5 up to 11 element, and that would help us to complete our IG2 risk assessment project. One of the sample I shared with all of you in the WhatsApp group for IG2 and some of the tips to pass IG1 exam also. And I'll share a few of further things for IG1, like if you remember, we had one scenario with what I shared with all of you with some particular questions. So I'll share those answers within this Friday and Saturday, inshallah, because I'll get a couple of days and we'll be sharing the best practices or kind of best answers, inshallah, which will give you an idea how you have to be typing or searching or browsing your answers against any question. But yes, all your answers must be in line with your scenario, and no harm to give solid references either from ILO, either from NEBOSH HSC UK or NEBOSH IGC training material. But surely those references will be making credible to our answers, inshallah, in front of NEBOSH examiners. Now, if you remember, we have done one exercise how to identify hazards, and I showed plenty of pictures, and mashallah, you all highlighted several hazards and risks. So now we will go a little bit in depth. Like if we're gonna take noise, so we'll discuss in a little bit more detailed manner, and then we will definitely highlight how to control the noise hazard at our workplaces. So let's start. We have done so far 4 days and it's a 5th day. Now these are some of the learning objectives of element number 5. That means describe the health effects associated with exposure to noise and appropriate control measures. So hazard and appropriate control measures, that would be our domain against any hazard. Describe the health effects associated with exposure to vibration and appropriate control measures. Same way ionizing and non-ionizing radiations, and again the appropriate suitable controls. And same way we're going to discuss about work-related mental ill health and how we're going to manage. And most importantly, the violence at work. What are the risk factors and appropriate controls for violence at work? And the last, we're going to discuss about substance abuse on health and safety and their controls. And so that means noise, vibration, ionizing and non-ionizing radiation, work-related mental ill health, violence at work, substance abuse. So almost 7 hazards we're going to discuss along with their appropriate control measures. So in each element, we'll be discussing some new hazards, and based on that, as per our understanding, as per NEBOSH theories, as per some international standards, we'll be discussing appropriate controls as well. So let's start with noise. Now, before we discuss further anything about NEBOSH theories, why not to create one project in our minds? Imagine we all have a company, and what we do, we just do noise analysis. We do noise surveys, in other words, and we also suggest how to reduce the noise pollution within that company. We have no other job. Our team, our expertise, only to tackle the noise pollution. And that is the business scope of our company. Now, why company is going to hire us only for one element, the noise? In one of the project, I noted I was because mostly we get pick and drop whenever we have remote site projects to be delivered, especially at Aramco sites. So normally pick and drop is given by the company. And in one of the project, I got one guy from UK. He was with me. So I asked him, you came for, so he mentioned only for noise analysis, only for noise survey of Aramco rig sites. So I asked him, don't you have any other job? No, no, no. Our company only works for against noise pollution. We just support to the businesses how to identify the noise levels and what are the best control measures as per the nature of their processes even. And they have no other job. And the person came from UK just for this particular job. And then I started following it up, and I started learning even from him how he gonna do it, because it is quite surprising that a company is coming from UK and having only one element within their business scope, that is working against noise pollution. Then every day, because he was supposed to visit 8 rig sites, and luckily 3 of the rig sites I was again with him, because usually the travel plan, we collaborate 2 or 3 persons all together, and we try to reduce our traveling cost also. That is company's intention as well. Now the moment every day we're gonna discuss little bit, and I understood how he was doing it. The first thing he asked to the company, especially the Saudi Aramco company man, to share the layout of the rig site. And now within the layout, that means kind of a drawing, in other words. And now he has some noise meters, and moving around by wearing all PPs and getting the permit and moving around, all the highly noisy areas, and started from the generator area, from where the power is coming. And then same way in each nook and corner, and he was writing all the readings at the drawing actually. And once he noted down the noise level, somewhere was above than 105 decibel, somewhere he noted 90 decibel, while the legal limit is 85 decibel, but as for UK is 80 decibel even. And he just prepared the report for each rig and shared on the same day. And to be very honest, he didn't suggest any control. I repeat again, he didn't even suggest any control, how to reduce, how to, what controls we're gonna put, and we can tackle this noise. Even couldn't suggest anything about PPs or something like that, nothing. Just noise analysis, just noise survey. And he came from UK. And that's it. His job is done. Each rig, same standard format, is getting the drawing or the layout of the rig site, moving around, getting all the readings, and then sharing some average sound level and area wise or location wise, and the most highly sensitive noisy areas where people would be damaging their health, or they can be deaf also, hearing damage, more probability. And then the company is responsible to put some further controls how to reduce, like might be they're going to work on more aggressively on their maintenance plans, might be they're going to change some of the noisy parts. But the point is that company is not suggesting, the company itself have to find the best ways. Because what I was thinking might be they will do noise survey and then he will suggest a lot of controls, but that was not the case. So surprisingly, that means might be that company is having high-tech expertise and licenses and certifications, only for as a noise analysis or analytical experts, they might have all the licenses and operating globally. Now, the same way as a management consultant, I got personally one project from one of the manufacturing company, so their challenge was without PME license or Presidency of Environmental Metrology of Saudi Arabia, they were supposed to get a PME license, and you can't get PME license for your company until you fulfill all the requirements or meeting their standards and expectations. And the moment I started working, we had environmental study of our plant, air analysis. We were putting a lot of especially for noise, we a lot of lubrication and maintenance we done just to reduce the noise level. But still, a cumulative sound was above 95 decibel. I still remember. And because of that point, we were stuck. We were stuck because the PME consultants and officials, they still gave us a challenge. You have to bring it below 85 decibel. Then we're going to issue the PME license. And for covering that point, it took us 6 months, my friends, because if more than 100 machines are there, so the highly noisy machines we pointed out and we started realizing how many machines we have to isolate, how many machines we have to put in the new hall or kind of a room, and how many machines we require to cover with some fencing, with some guarding. And most importantly, are we going to replace any machine, the oldest one, which already depreciated in the accounts books? And can the management will be agreeing with us? What I mean is just eliminating 1 point of decibel to bring it below 85 decibel. That means under legal limits, it took us 6 months. Somehow we achieved PME license, and from that day, I realized before accepting the project as a consultant even, I will ask a lot of documentation first of all from the company, and I will not accept the project until I study their processes and have an idea how terrible that project could be. Because if we signed a project and I thought I would complete within 1.5 months or maximum 2 months, then it took me like almost 7 months. So, but still commitment is commitment. Once you signed a contract, you have to give respect to that contract and finish, and that is your brand goodwill also in the market. So I hope it will give you some idea how terrible sometimes is a challenge to control noise or to reduce and to put some regulations in place, having warning signs and putting some rotation plans, not to let anyone work above than 2 hours, 3 hours, especially in the noisy areas. And if something is drastically illegal in line with the government standards, surely you have to remove it. I mean, you can't give any excuses. Oh, our hands are up. If your hands are up, stop your business. We are not going to issue the license. So Saudi government, they are doing great things, but these are hidden things. Normally, we don't know how they are, pushing us to comply with all the legal standards. And now things are getting more serious. That is, even I noted, just for air pollution, our industrial demand 159 hazardous plants already got warning notices from the government. And that is why the Dammam Industrial 3 is designed and allocated. So these industries can move there. But still, moving one industry from another location, of course, it's not easy job. and they are reluctant also, because sometimes you have relations, sometimes uh, your process doesn't allow to move on immediately. But today or tomorrow they have to, because you can't in the residential compounds or kind of residential areas, because of your company, if polluted air is going in the air, how come people can bear with that? And the same way, the Saudi government also have some air analysis, noise analysis there. Even GOSI itself is also performing plenty of such tests. Even SASO officials also started working on it. And then PME officials, they have the key job, because they are part of Presidency of Environmental Metrology. Same way, in Saudi Aramco, we have EPD, Environmental Protection Division. So they also work on all these things. So now let's talk about what NEBOSH is sharing with us. What is noise and how to identify the noise levels, what are the legal limits, and most importantly, how to control them. So let's understand first of all the industry types where we mostly get noise or the effects of exposure to noise. The number one is always the construction workers, because they surely have heavy equipment, plant and machinery, and concrete breakers. Then also the uniform services like small arms and artillery industry, they're also exposed to high noise. Entertainment sector workers, like loud music is there, or like nightclubs and entertainment clubs or cinema halls, or so of course the loud music is there. So that is also exposure to terrible noise. And the fourth segment or type of domain is manufacturing sector workers. That means industrial machinery. Some level, the noise is unavoidable, but accumulative noise, you can isolate, you can reduce. We will discuss all these things later on in the presentation. But the major issue, what I personally noted as a consultant, the real challenge is the accumulative noise. All machines are giving some sound, and then at certain point, accumulative sound is above legal limits. And here, that is the point we sometimes stuck, and hard to identify what to do exactly, because the layout is already designed and standardized even. Then also the fifth one is the call center staff, because acoustic shock from headsets, all the time they are wearing headphones or headsets. So they're also exposed to the noise, so certain effects would also be there. So construction, uniform services, entertainment, manufacturing, and call center. Now, what could be the effects of exposure to noise? There are physical effects and psychological effects. Physical effects could be temporary, like reduction in hearing, temporary threshold shift, or ringing in ears, temporary tinnitus. So in other words, the permanent tinnitus or noise induced hearing loss, like permanent threshold shift, inability to hearing vehicle, warnings, conversations. And psychological effects, stress gonna be there, and concentration problems. So distracted mind. If I want to focus on something, I can't bear any noise, because it will distract my mind, and the concentration issues will be there. So these are the effects, like physical effects and psychological effects. That is why we have to put some controls. We have to put some regulations in place, maybe engineering controls, administrative controls, or ultimately the PPs. And before that, we can try elimination and isolation as well, or substitution, sorry. Now, terminology is kind of a sound pressure, because the air pressure of sound waves moving through the air expressed in decibels. We measure sound in decibel. Decibel basically is a unit of sound pressure level, subjectively the loudness, and frequency is the number of pressure waves per second. A weighting means sound pressure level corrected to human match hearing sensitivity, and C weighting means that sound pressure level corrected for impulse noise. So just bear in mind how we're gonna measure it in decibel, and what is the legal limit or permissible exposure limit for decibel. That must be, we have to be familiar with that. Either if I ask what is the legal limit in Saudi Arabia, so you must be familiar. There's below 85 or below 90 decibel, whatever. So you have to be knowledgeable for that one. And same way, as per OSHA USA, what is the permissible decibel limit for noise, or the legal limit of noise? Bear in mind, there are decibel levels like at 0% decibel, that means the faintest audible sounds, and 20 to 30 decibel mean quiet library. Even in quiet library, 20 to 30 decibels are there. And 50 to 60 is the conversation. We are talking to each other. The sound level, the loud level is already 50 to 60 decibel. Now, if we are having loud radio, the decibel will go up like 65 to 75 decibel. Now, if we have power drill, the decibel, of course, will go up like 90 to 100 decibel. And if we talk about jet aircraft taking off 25-meter away, 140 decibel. Now, I hope you'll be thinking about your Sadara projects, the machines, the equipment, and of course their sound level. And now you would definitely be asking to your environmental engineer to please share the noise level of every nook and corner of Sadara projects. So let us understand, as a safety leader or as a safety technician or as a safety manager, let us understand how the noise is affecting our employees, because there are physical effects and psychological effects. That means we have to be very careful, and we have to work on a certain plan, so our people should never be deaf because of our company operations. Let me give you one more case study. In one of the guy in Europe or UK, he just filed a case. He became deaf while working for the last 8-10 years in a company, and they were manufacturer of plastic lids. The lids we put on paper cup, especially at the brand level like McDonald's, Starbucks, and several other brands. They gave us coffee cups or the paper cups for soft drinks, and we put one lid. And so they were the manufacturer of those plastic lids. And after working 8-10 years, he became deaf, and he filed a case. He filed a case against that company by highlighting that because they didn't provide me appropriate earplugs or earmuffs, that is why I became deaf. And later on, he won the case also because company couldn't prove that they were taking care every day and they provided the right set of PPs, especially earplugs and earmuffs. They couldn't prove because of the noise level was above than 110 decibel. So they were providing the earplug or earmuff, which can reduce only 10 decibel. So still above legal limit was there. So through that way, and also whenever they issue the PPs, For the last 10 years, the records they didn't retain actually, because the retention period in their documentation, what they have mentioned, just maximum 3 years. So 7 years record is already shredded out. And he won the case, and millions of dollars fine and compensation was paid to that gentleman. Even though we can't get such kind of facility within Middle East, or because people they don't know about their rights. If I'm working for your company and becoming deaf, or God forbid having lung cancer because of your company operations, because you didn't provide me the right set of respirator or kind of mask, which can filter all toxic fumes, and then giving me what, the clean air or the oxygen. Okay, let me share one more incident. Like in one of the case study I noted, Canada, let me mention the name also. Canada was exporting a lot of asbestos fiber containing materials to India, to their textile industry. And in the textile industry, this asbestos fiber, the problem with that, once they gone into your lungs, you can't get them out. They will be penetrated, going to be deeper and deeper over the years, maybe after 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. The lungs would start facing some terrible issues, and a time will come, the lung cancer. Otherwise, breathing issues would already be there. And that asbestos containing material was not being used from Canada. They were just exporting to. And from after that day, I started thinking now the new religion is invented, gain money and power by any means. And a lot of journalists and the media agencies were behind this Canadian government and the Indian government, because both governments knows that what they're doing to each other. But because a lot of money was involved, so they kept silent. And who is the affected, guys? The poor workers. Because after working 10, 15, 20 years in the textile industry, and they highlighted maybe more than 10,000 or 15,000 employees are going to be affected because of these asbestos containing materials. Same way, if we are not controlling the noise within our companies and our people are damaging or being deaf or having some terrible issues in hearing, of course they have a right to file a case, because you didn't give proper care to them, the right set of appropriate PPs. Okay, if you're gonna claim, okay, you provided the PPs, he didn't use, then prove it. Prove it through pictures that you visited every day, there was safety inspection, but he was not using the earplug or the earmuff. But that company couldn't prove. That is why this all sort of documentation relevant to HSE, I don't call them ordinary documents. I call them, these are the legal documents, because once a case would be filed against your company, then those documents, even the minor evidences in the court, would be a lot of beneficial, for winning this case. Otherwise, if you lose the case, a lot of fine from the government side and even compensation to the affected persons. So yes, there are noise exposure standards and have two factors which determine the degree of harm, are like the noise level and duration of exposure. If I know this is a highly noisy area, so I should not allow the same worker to work 12 hours within the same highly noisy area. I should put some administrative controls and or the rotation plan. Okay, you work for 1 hour, then the second one, then the third one. So you create a kind of a rotational plan here. Otherwise, a noise assessment is undertaken to measure noise levels and duration of exposure. Like I gave you an example of a UK official, he came just for noise survey or noise assessment for Aramco rig sites. This is then used to make an estimate of workers' personal exposure to noise. Personal exposure is then compared to the legal standards. Once we get the complete risk assessment, all the noise level of each area, now this is a time to compare with the legal standard, And then we're gonna have a clear picture, either we are complying or violating. And measurements and assessment must be undertaken by a competent person. So we need a competent person, the qualified one, experienced one, having knowledge and right set of skills, to perform this task. We have to understand the personal noise exposure, like daily personal noise exposure. The workers calculated 8 hours noise exposure, and workers exposure to single peaks of impulse noise is also measured. This is the peak sound pressure. So we can do some analysis. Yes, there are noise exposure standards subject to national laws also. Like I told, what are the I would say the noise level legally mentioned by Saudi government. Either you can get it from PME, Presidency of Environmental Metrology, or from SASO, or from any other source. What are the legal laws related to noise levels in Saudi Arabia? And also no harmonized standards in the UK. These are laid into the Control of Noise and Work Regulation 2005. And I would appreciate if you can take few minutes and can you find this regulation, Control of Noise and Work Regulation 2005, and download if it is possible. Otherwise, I will find and share, inshallah. Control of Noise and Work Regulation. Take your time, please. Okay, so I hope you got the idea. Once we have noise analysis surveys, so we can compare with some legal standards. And same way, if you are giving answer, even in IG1, relevant to the word noise or radiation or ionizing radiation, anything relevant to those hazards, if they are highlighted in the scenario, then if you are giving some answers, make sure you give that reference, control of noise and work regulations. Otherwise, from whatever the source is, make sure you give that a reference. And even we can follow EU directives. Now, the noise exposure standards, lower exposure action values are daily or weekly personal noise exposure is 80 decibel, and a peak sound pressure of 135 decibel for impulse noise. Upper exposure action values are daily or weekly personal noise exposure is 85 decibel, and a peak sound pressure of 137 decibel for impulse noise. Now, limit values are daily or weekly personal noise is 85 decibel, and a peak sound pressure 140 decibel for impulse noise. Where employees exposure varies markedly from day to day, the weekly personal noise exposures can be used in place of the daily personal exposure standard. There is a TLV register, time, threshold limit value register or time weight average register we keep for each employee, especially for H2S. If one employee is exposing to H2S, so we will keep putting in the record, or 2 hours today, 3 hours tomorrow, then, date wise. So ultimately we will get weekly numbers, and we're going to make sure they are not exceeding the legal limits, because it's not like every day, one day you are 8 hours exposed to H2S, and next day you are 6 hours, and then, so make sure the cumulative numbers are not also exceeding weekly basis as per legal requirements. Same way, the noise level. We have to prepare a noise register employee wise and make sure we are quite familiar. Like if I ask employee number 999, how many hours for the last year in 2020 he was exposed to the noise level above than 85 decibel, or 86 decibel to 90 decibel, or 90 decibel to 100 decibel. So this record actually will give us a cumulative figure for each employee, and we can also evaluate how that gentleman could be affected. So we can change, we can rotate, so it will give, if we really want to give care to our employees. Otherwise, definitely there are more chances to be deaf or having some hearing damage. But the noise exposure, the actions triggered, lower exposure action value is 80 decibel. Carry out the noise assessment and provide information, instruction, and training, and make hearing protection available. If upper exposure action value 85 decibel is there, carry out a noise assessment, reduce noise exposure by engineering means allowed. That means as low as reasonably practicable. A noise is still above 85 decibel, mandatory hearing protection zone, information, instruction, and training, and provide hearing protection and enforce use. Health surveillance would also be. Now, for health surveillance, let me humbly dare to ask, do you have audiometry test for Sadara employees, at least annually? Do you have audiometry test for your Sadara employees, at least annually?
Yes, it's part of the annual test, yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty important. So year to year, at least you'll be familiar, how the noise is impacting to our employees, or should we take some actions, or it's quite normal. But this audiometry test must be done in a high standard level, even though we have insurance cards. But mostly I noted in insurance, we didn't cover actually the audiometry test. Now, either the company is paying for those tests, or we are telling to our worker. That is another discussion actually, because sometimes several things we don't cover in insurance agreement, because the more things you will put in the insurance agreement, the more premium or more amount you have to pay per employee.
Yeah, just to clear one point, Doctor.
Yeah.
So for us here in Sadara, we have our internal clinic, which is going to perform the annual medical test for all of the employees.
Excellent.
So this is part of it, yeah. So it's internally with the certified doctors and nurses within Sadara boundary. So this is why we have better control in that subject.
Mashallah, brilliant. You guys are pretty a great role model for the market, mashallah. Excellent. If noise is still above 85 decibel, so make sure you make it a clear cut, it's a mandatory hearing protection zone. Nobody can dare to go into that area without hearing protection, like ear muff or ear plug. But make sure that ear plug and ear muff is in line with the requirement. Like if noise level is above 100 decibel, so make sure the ear plug or ear muff you are providing can reduce 25 decibel or 20 decibel. That means we have to bring the impact below 85 decibel. That is the challenge, if we totally want to rely on the PPs. If we have chance to put some more engineering controls, or we're gonna use some reliability engineers, they're gonna suggest some of the better controls to reduce, to minimize the noise level. That would be more better option, because PPs, of course, as a last option. Other than PPs, we have no other choice to go for. Then definitely we have to provide.
Yeah, just to give you a small journey about the hearing conservation program or survey that we are doing here in Sadara. So we are doing that, okay? Normally it's going to sustain for 3 years unless there is no major change in the area. So we will have some sort of devices. We will do as each in this technician. We will do the activity by ourselves by standing 1 meter from the source, okay, and taking the actual measurement. So normally in the HVAC room, MCC room, there where you can find the higher noise in that area due to, for example, HVAC, there is generators, the chiller and so on. But sometimes in the plant itself, nearby blower, pumps and etc., you will find high noise source. So what, as an immediate action, if we find something more than 85 decibel, what we are going to do, we are going to do like painting in the ground and erect signages, safety signages, which you mentioned that after the study, is it required single hearing protection or double hearing protection? Okay. The other thing that we are going to do, for example, if the pump have high noise, so what we are going to do, we are going to sort some precaution by installing a specific type of guards on that pump. So it's going to reduce the sound, even if the alarm is so high. So we are going to find something to reduce it to the acceptable limit, and so on for the other examples.
Brilliant, mashallah. So that is the next group exercise. Also, thank you very much for your great input, because this is kind of a practical approach. And of course, the real challenge is, to work against these noise levels. Now, a noise survey has been carried out, and there are two work areas of concern. One is machine shop, and the noise level is 83 decibel throughout the shift. Then there is another area, woodworking area, noise level is 90 decibel throughout the shift. Now, can we discuss the actions that would need to be taken in each area? Like in machine shop, the noise level is 83 decibel, while the legal limit as per UK HAC or as per NEBOSH theories is 80 decibel. So 3 decibel is more in the machine shop even. So how we can bring down and what actions we can take, and same way for woodworking area, and noise level is 90 decibel. So the discussion open for you in the chat box. So I would appreciate your reply on it. Otherwise, you can speak up also. It's up to you. Like you mentioned earlier, mashallah, the best solutions, whenever you had any issue above 85 decibel, you immediately take some certain actions. Otherwise, PP is definitely is an option.
Yeah, the method following here, if we have if we discover an issue, doctor. So the first thing, we have two kinds of action. One of them is short-term solution or action, and long-term action. All right. So because as you know, to have if let's say in the mechanical shop there is an issue with pump, with the sound or whatever, so we cannot just find the solution and we implement it directly. So this is why we need to have the temporary action. For example, to limit the exposure for the employees by wearing PPEs, and even we need to interfere in their working schedule. So as you mentioned, for example, just now about the H2S, so it's impossible that we will have somebody working 8 hours for this day and tomorrow he will come to work 6 hours. So we can play a little bit with their working schedule. After that, whenever we have this long-term solution in place, this issue will be eliminated, inshallah.
Excellent, mashallah. Great. Now, in these scenarios, like machine shop, the noise level is 83 decibels. So what actions you're going to suggest? How we can reduce, or what are the solutions?
First of all, we will follow the hierarchy of control: elimination, substitution, engineering, and what they call it, and other controls. So if we can, for example, eliminate this source while they are doing the activity, or reduce the amount, for example, their activity is going to be there for 2 hours. So for example, if we can shut down this equipment for 1 hour and they can work, no issue. So by this one, we were going to reduce the impact for 1 hour. So this is one of the options. Other thing, we are going to check the substitution. If there is any alternative way they can do this activity without having this exposure. If not, we will go for engineering control, which is going to be the long-term solution. After that, we can go for administrative control about the training and controlling the people movement and working schedule. And the last point, which is PPE, which is going to reduce the exposure below 83.
Excellent, brilliant, brilliant. Excellent, mashallah. So that means the short-term plan and the long-term plan. Most, control plans in terms of actions, and you make it time-bound also, right? Whatever action plan you are preparing, especially for long-term, you are putting some target dates or kind of deadlines, Is it the case?
Yes, and in Sadara we have very good tool. We call it event and action tool. All right. So in that tool, you will put the title of whatever subject, and you will assign the action along with the target date. and this tool will send automatic message to the guys. And even we consider this part of our KPI to be tracked. So which each or event detection tool went overdue and so on, and how many of them being extended and what is the reason. So we have very, very good tool to control all actions assigned as an outcome from any assessment or any accident.
And auto analysis would also be there through this tool, right? That how many issues were highlighted and how many are resolved, and might be some blinking also, that some reminders going to be there.
Yeah, it's there. And even we are tracking those in monthly based, all right? And even as each in this technician in weekly base, just to remind the operation team or the assigned people about which action going to be overdue. And they need to close it, or either they need to reschedule it by justification, strong justification to be accepted.
Excellent. This is how, so what I am realizing, might be you have open budget for safety. Otherwise, some sort of expensive tools, mostly, even the top brands I've been working, they are reluctant to invest, especially for safety, So what they believe is we just need to put some ordinary simple tools and let the things to be managed by the safety team members, But I'm truly happy that you guys have, because for each problem, definitely it's a game of appropriate tools to resolve it. There is a solution for sure. But if you don't buy or you don't implement that particular tool or kind of solution, actually, either it's expensive or it's non-expensive whatsoever, but the right set of tools and the solution must be in line with our problem to be resolved in. Otherwise, no benefit. It's a waste of money sometimes. Brilliant, mashallah. But anyhow, the first thing is, for control measures, we truly have to understand the noise travel, like from source to receiver. The real source of, from where the noise is starting up or getting more and more, and how it is going up to the receiver. So this diagram will definitely be highlighting what is the noise path, direct and reflected noise path, and how the employees are reflected or affected, in a structured pathway. But the noise source, that means something is revolving, might be a flywheel, might be some friction is going on. So some source of sound definitely you'll find on each equipment or machine. Now from that source up to the employee, how that noise is traveling, that diagram will be helping you out. Now, as you mentioned, mashallah, reduce noise at source, like eliminate, substitute, modify the process, maintenance or damping or silencing. So these are some of the, actions you can take to reduce noise at source. And the next one is interrupting the pathway. That means insulation, isolation, absorption. This is the second phase. And the third one is protect the receiver, like acoustic haven or hearing protection. But bear in mind, the first thing we have to try, elimination, substitution, modify the process or kind of engineering controls or maintenance or damping and silencing. Then of course we can go with interrupting the pathway. So three ways are there for noise control: reduce noise at source, interrupting the pathway, and protect the receiver. So even if you, again, let me mention, if you get anything relevant to noise in the scenario, like if they highlight any incident and they also discuss about the noise that the person couldn't hear, or the person who was working in a highly noisy area, that is why he couldn't understand the forklift is coming or is coming on the way and he couldn't hear the horn or whatever. So then make sure you highlight some of the control measures, that those control measures were missing in the company. That is why this incident happened. And what are these control measures as per NEBOSH theories? Reduce noise at source, interrupting the pathway, protect the receiver. All three steps of controls were missing or ignored, That is why this incident happened. So whenever we go in terms of investigations, we have to get help from the theories, either from NEBOSH, from OSHA, from ILO, from ISO, from API, from WHO, from PME, from your Royal Commission, from wherever. but make sure you give a solid reference there. Now, hearing protection is a game of ear defenders like muffs. In case the ear and bones surrounding the ear and earplug fit into the ear canal. Now, discuss the relative advantages and limitations of ear defenders or ear muff type and earplugs as form of hearing protection. What are the advantages and limitations? The discussion is open in the chat box. Take your time. What are the advantages and limitations of earplugs and ear defenders or ear muffs, in other words? What are the advantages and limitations? Sometimes people say, I hate earplugs. I can't wear them more than 10 minutes or more than even 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, I started feeling uncomfortable. So I don't like earplugs. And somebody gonna say these ear muffs or ear defenders, it's hard for me to wear them all the time because I'm working in the maintenance. So I need to hear some sounds from the machine to understand what is the fault. So if I wear the ear defender or ear muff, so I can't listen, I can't hear properly. So a lot of excuses. But let me see how you're gonna. Yes, the first disadvantage will affect the communication between the workers. Excellent. Excellent, mashallah. So any other opinion, please? Advantages and limitations. Yeah, advantage is quite straightforward that it will protect you from the high noise, especially if it is above than 85 decibel or 80 decibel as per HEC UK. Carry on, please, whatever is coming in your mind. I would appreciate if everyone can put something, whatever you are thinking. I'm not expecting the right set of answers, but at least as per our experience, we can put something in discussion. Then we'll see what NEBOSH is sharing with us. Because every person who is writing everything in his own words is getting more marks. But whatever he's writing, he's giving the right source, even though he's avoiding copy paste, but definitely he got all the bonanza of information and started typing, in his own words. That means not to type word to word even, instead of highlighting, so he started. In case you did not check your earplugs properly, maybe it will be fallen inside your ears and cause you big problem. Because easy to wear, Abdulaziz, excellent, mashallah. Yes, easy to wear. Immediate solution against noise levels or noise hazard. No need to think about elimination, no need to think about substitution, no engineering controls, no administration, just wear PPs and the job is done. Okay, so more protection. Because if you have tried all other engineering, administrative, elimination and substitution, then it's definitely a better protection at the end. Yes, Mr. Rahman, there would be hygienic issues, and a lot of people have complained about it because they started feeling something terrible, kind of itching, inside the eardrum. So they don't like one size for most of the employees. Yes. Anything else is coming in your mind, please? Great discussion is going on. Okay, so that's it. Or anything else is coming in your mind, please? If no inspections done, maybe it will not solve the problem. Yes, true. Training should be delivered how to, delivered on how employers or employees should wear the earplugs. Okay, as an auditor, let me share with all of you what I have noted. Instead of earplug here, I found here, you know. Instead of inside, I found here from that way. Because they don't like earplugs. Might be that design is not good enough. It's uncomfortable, probably after 5-10 minutes. So now they started playing with us. Oh, safety manager or officer or technician are visiting. So let them show that we have earplug, and they don't put inside, just here sometime and sometime that way, not meeting the right purpose, That's I personally noted as a safety auditor. And this is how, and then I discuss even. So he mentioned, I don't like this earplug. This is not the good one. And the same as for face mask. Yes, true. Now, please take 2 more minutes, and can you identify the regulations, the manufacturing regulations for earplugs or earmuffs? What are the international directives or standards or European regulations or OSHA regulations, or even from your Royal Commission regulations about earplug and earmuff? The references I'm talking about, especially for manufacturing, based on which international standard or regulations or directive these PPs must be manufactured and then to be sold to concerned end users. That means the standards for PPs, especially for earplug and earmuff. And if you see the packing of your earmuff or earplugs, definitely you will find some European regulations or some international standard reference, even at the packaging. Take your time, the standards relevant to PPs. So EN 352-1 2002 must be labeled with the standard number, manufacturer, and model identification. Brilliant, mashallah. Okay, so this is what NEBOSH is highlighting: the ear defenders and muffs, the advantages of ear defenders and limitations. The first advantage is this is easy to supervise and enforce use as they are visible. Very less chances of ear infections. Higher level of protection possible through all sound frequencies. Bond transmission is reduced and can be integrated with other PPs like safety helmets and also reusable. These are some of the advantages of ear defenders. But what are the limitations? Uncomfortable, when worn for long time, must be routinely inspected, cleaned and maintained. Efficiency may be reduced by long hair, spectacles or earrings. Incompatible with some other items worn, need dedicated storage facility. So these are some of the limitations of ear defenders. Now let's talk about earplugs. Some of the advantages are they are cheap, disposable, often more comfortable to wear, do not interfere with any other items worn, e.g. like PPs. But what are the limitations? Difficult to see when fitted, no supervision and enforcement, difficult, risk of infection if dirty or if cross-contaminated when inserted. And if a gentleman have skin allergy or having some ear infections already, for him, of course, it would be more terrible to wear earplugs. No, the point is, whichever type of hearing protection you've chosen, arrangements should be made for information, instruction, training, safe storage, cleaning, maintenance, and replacement. Whichever type of hearing protection you are issuing to your employees, but make sure they are well informed, instructed, and trained, and they know how to safely store them, and gonna make sure they are well cleaned all the time, and maintenance and replacements is also there. Now, what is the role of health surveillance? Like audiometry allows identification of workers with pre-existing hearing damage, new hearing damage, pre-employment medical screening. Almost all the companies have in Saudi Arabia. Even your IQAMA, your ID will not be outdated. But the point is, this audiometry test, it is not mandatory or kind of pre-employment requirement, or hiring requirement. Before you join the company, bring your medical report and audiometry test also. But that is not until today mandatory. That means if a person having some hearing damage or is already deaf and you hired him, and later on, even if you do audiometry test, still this gentleman would be a headache for all of you, because that is not your fault. He came up, yes, the medical screening was not effective. That is why he came in and hired, and later on you found through audiometry test that his hearing or is already halfway deaf. Then it would be definitely a critical issue for your company. So removal, exclusion of such workers from high noise areas, investigation of noise controls to rectify problems. Now let's take another exercise. Identify occupations at risk from noise-induced hearing loss and the potential causes. Just occupations we need to highlight. Highly noisy occupations. Please, whatever is coming in your mind, let me just put in the chat box, please. Highly noisy occupations, as per your understanding. Yes, Mr. Ahmed. Yes, places where you can find high noises. But much better is the profession also, the occupations. Like, uh, imagine if a person is hired as a vibrator or the user for vibrating tools, or even the places, as you mentioned. Like some of the examples, the noisiest jobs or occupations, you can consider like construction worker, the nightclub workers, rock stars, in other words, even the people working in the manufacturing companies as a machine operator. That's what I'm talking about. So any other professions or occupation you believe, or the places even you believe, more highly noisy area would be there, like above than 85 decibels, especially, or 80 decibel. Take your time because we have to be practically sound. Even you guys are excellent, mashallah. You are well expert as per your profession, but still, let's see if something we can invent in noise exposures, especially about their controls. Yes, guys, whatever coming in your mind, just let me know so we can move on. Identify occupations at risk from noise-induced hearing loss and the potential causes. But first of all, let's identify only the occupations which are having more noise. Like you can take an example of your company operations, like you have done risk assessment, you have done hazard identification or JSA for each process. So how many processes are there, or the worker who are working within those processes are facing high noise, like above than 85 decibel or 80 decibel, like you mentioned, havoc rooms or maintenance workshops. Or what about your any heavy equipments like your crane operators, your forklift operators, or any closed areas with high noise, especially if people are working in a confined space and doing grinding or cutting, that means more noise. So now let's see what NEBOSH is talking about. Basically, NEBOSH is creating further, 3 questions. What are the health effects of exposure to high level noise? And we discussed hearing damage, plenty of physical and health issues or psychological issues. There are 3 main ways of reducing noise. Like we discussed, 3 ways. It's already in the presentation also. Like we eliminate from the source and then interrupting and then protection of employees at the end. What types of PPs are available? What are the pros and cons of each? We discuss all 3 questions in detail. Yeah, this I just noticed, Mr. Ahmed, you highlighted erecting scaffolding. So, what do you think? I mean, while erection, is there more sound? Because normally it doesn't look. Okay, okay, okay. So I hope in Sadara you might have done separate noise assessment for each process for each area or the highly sensitive areas. You've been definitely done separate risk assessment, noise risk assessment or noise assessment. And then accordingly, you might have put a lot of controls like already mentioned by one of our friend, Mashallah. Let's talk about the vibration, the next hazard. Until now, we were discussing only about noise. Now we are going one more step, vibration. And first of all, vibration could also be, noise would also be the foundation for the vibration as well. Like if you are having some terrible noise, sometime might be the glasses, the windows, mirrors could also be broken because of this vibration created by the high sound level. So both are reciprocal. But anyhow, let's discuss how NEBOSH is guiding us about it. Let's understand, first of all, the health effects of exposure to vibration. It's kind of a hand-arm vibration effects. We call it HAVS, hand-arm vibration syndrome. Look at the picture. And we can see like source HSE guidance L140 reproduced under the terms of the open government license. And what would gonna happen? Vibration white fingers, that means blanching, and nerve damage, and muscle weakening and joint damage. That means the terrible effects. Or carpal tunnel syndrome, CTS in other words. Now, in your risk assessment of all the processes, how many processes you believe are creating a lot of vibration? If the vibration is there, then considers the health effects, and surely you need to put some effective controls in place. And the major health effect to exposure to the vibration is the back pain, the whole body vibration effects means the back pain. Occupations could be drivers or the dump truck driving. Mostly, whatever the road condition is there, or they are especially off driving or desert driving. So all the time wobbling and vibration is there. So mostly they feel back pain. Now, how are we gonna assess of vibration exposure? So we can remember the control of vibration at work regulations 2005. Vibration dose determined by the vibration magnitude and duration of exposure. Vibration magnitude, how are we gonna measure? We will discuss in next slide, but duration of exposure and personal exposure is estimated called 8 hours energy equivalent vibration magnitude or A8. This is compared to the legal standards. Now we have a group exercise. Can you just search and find out the vibration exposure standards, and even if I could add vibration exposure standards and exposure limits, in other words, vibration exposure standards or limits. Please in the chat box, I'm expecting some of your solid answers. Vibration exposure standards, Like if someone is asked you what is the daily exposure limit, how would you define and based on which standard you're talking about? Excellent, Mr. Rahman, absolutely right. No, the point is what kind of meters or what kind of tools you have to measure what is the ELV or what is the vibration, like if you are going into the generator area or if someone is doing hilti drill and having some certain level of vibration, how are you going to measure that this is below daily exposure limit like 5 m per scale s square? How are you going to measure actually? How do you monitor the vibration levels? Let me be more straightforward, like vibration monitoring devices. Can we prepare the list or tell the name and find the name? Vibration monitoring devices. So we can assess the amplitude or the frequency or intensity of several forces. What kind of meter we're gonna use or how we monitor. Great, mashallah. So, Mr. Rahman and all, this is the same strategy to resolve your exam, whatever question they are asking. But that answer must be in line with the scenario. But the good thing is now you have more researching opportunities, browsing, better understanding, better practical approach. Even though there are chances of malpractice and being reported also, that your exam, someone else is, supporting you, or he is completing your exam on behalf of you, and you are somehow playing with NEBOSH authorities also. But that malpractice, of course, will never give you an inner satisfaction, because you are putting a foundation in a wrong way, because honesty is the best policy. So, but some people, they take it as an opportunity to learn more better practical skills and to build a self brand as a best safety leader. And I personally notice in the market, if you are the safety leader and you are getting maybe 100,000 real, and the same level another safety leader is there, but he is not having some leadership skills or effective leadership skills, especially in safety like you, and he is working maybe 2,500 real, maybe 4,000 real, or maybe 6,000 real. I hope you got the point. So if your personal brand as a safety leader is well published, so you can demand the salary what you expect, and company would love to pay, because ultimately they don't want to see any legal violation, they don't want to see any incident or accident or any ill health issues with their employees. So they trust on your brand, and that is why they are paying you 100,000 real, even though might be they have more than 5,000 employees or more than 2,000 employees. So that means it's a huge company, and they hired you, they trusted on you. But if you have done malpractice and somehow you got NEBOSH IGC, even NEBOSH IDIP is also now online. So the best idea is have a better learning opportunity and do some research, browsing, because it's open book. It's open book exam. So it's time to be innovative, time to be creative, instead of just have a piece of paper but no skill set. That would demolish your personal brand, and many people are suffering. They are running behind the job, but nobody want to hire them because no understanding. But I'm pretty sure you'll be, inshallah, rocking in future, because Sadara itself is a huge brand. But still, a time will come if you start your own training, consulting, or auditing company in safety, you'll be so much successful, mashallah, because your understanding is quite clear. Now, these are some of the exposure standards mentioned by NEBOSH theories, like at or above the daily exposure action value. And also they mention, what would happen if you violate these exposure limits, like vibration risk assessment must be done if it is above the daily exposure action value. So reduce exposure level, training and health surveillance. If you are crossing these limits, then make sure you take further steps like vibration risk assessments, reduce exposure level, training and health surveillance. At or above the daily exposure limit, if that is the case, vibration risk assessment must be done, and reduce exposure below the ELV. Now, what are the basic vibration control measures? Like we discussed earlier also, reduce vibration at source, like eliminate, substitute, change work technique, maintenance. Otherwise, interrupt the pathway, like isolate. And the next is the duration. That means put some administrative controls like limit time exposed, job rotation, or even the last ultimate solution, the PPs. So these are some of the basic vibration control measures. And I hope the way Sadara is working, you guys could have identified all the activities and processes, even areas, machines, where you are getting more vibration, and you might have some certain controls in place already. But still, no harm to review your vibration risk assessments only related to vibration, and see what is the result. Because sometimes we do assessment, but later on, no time to review. Especially whenever there is a little bit major change. So make sure you are reviewing your all sort of risk assessments. So remember basic vibration control measures. So remember these 4 steps: reduce, like we call it RIDP. RIDP, reduce vibration at source, interrupt, duration, and control the person through PPs. Now, what is the role of health surveillance? At or above the exposure action value, health surveillance allows identification of workers with pre-existing vibration damage, new vibration damage, and removal exclusion of such workers from vibration sources, investigation of vibration sources to rectify problems. So health surveillance is also so much important in that context. Now, 5.3 is all about radiation, but before we start, let me give you some insights on radiations. If we talk about from where we get radiations, what are the sources of radiations? Let's take an example of, first of all, our mobiles, our cell phones. Are we getting some radiations? Of course, yes. Now let's take an example of sunbeams. Of course, yes. Now let's talk about our welding processes. Yes, we get some radiations. Let's talk about hospitals like X-ray rooms or laboratories. Of course, we get radiations. Now let's talk about some radioactive materials, which by nature have some radiations. But the problem with the radiation is short term and long term, both way, you will have different kind of health effects, and especially the skin cancer. If as a long term, like if we are working under high level of radiation, different kind of radiations are there which have more terrible impact. So accordingly, our health could be affected. And until now, like noise, vibration, radiation, ill health, or substance abuse, all these hazards basically belong to our health. So they can damage to our health. So what we are discussing, health hazards, and might be in further stage, we will be discussing safety hazards also. But now let's start how NEBOSH is. So they are mentioning 2 types, ionizing and non-ionizing. That means visible light, non-ionizing is there, and ionizing means X-ray, just an example, because material that absorb it. These are some of the health effects like ultraviolet, UV, high frequency, electromagnetic radiation, light emitted by white hot materials such as the arc produced during arc welding. So within our arc welding processes, UV radiation is going to be there. So that means our precautions and controls must be in place to keep our employees safe. Now, visible light, electromagnetic radiations between the UV and IR from frequencies and visible to the human eye. IR mean infrared, low frequency electromagnetic radiation, light emitted by the red hot materials such as molten metal being poured into the castings. Microwaves, that's another example, lower frequency electromagnetic radiations emitted by a microwave generator. Radio waves, lower frequency electromagnetic radiation emitted by the antenna. So these are 5 domains of health effects of radiations. Now let's see what are the occupational sources of non-ionizing radiations. Let's take an example of ultraviolet like UV. What are the sources we get from sunlight? We get from arc welding. So from sunlight and from arc welding, we normally get UV, ultraviolet radiations. Now, health effects, skin burns, arc eye, and skin cancer. These are health effects of UV. And the sources are sunlight and arc welding. And health effects, we're gonna have skin burns, arc eye, or skin cancer also. Now, visible light, lasers, temporary blindness, infrared, IR, red hot steel, glass manufacturer. That means redness and skin burns, retinal burns or cataracts, microwaves is a food preparation, and telecommunications. That means internal heating and organ damage. Radio waves like radio, TV, and radar. Radio, TV, and radar, these are the sources. Internal heating and organ damage. Now, this is kind of a group exercise. You are going on holiday to a hot country. Take an example of Australia, or even our Saudi Arabia, also so hot country, you know, especially in summer season. So you are going on holiday to a hot country with long hours of sunshine. Discuss how you will protect yourself from sunburn from the UV light. How will you protect yourself? Waiting for your answers in the chat box. Otherwise, go for lunch and prayer break. And at 1, we will start from here. Is it okay? So after lunch and prayer break, we will discuss and we will start, inshallah, with this group exercise. Thank you very much for bearing with me. You have a great patience level, you know, sitting all in front and getting this training with full of focus, mashallah. Thank you very much. So nice of you. So far we were discussing element 5, especially some of the hazards like noise, vibration. And now we are discussing the third one, the radiations, ionizing radiations or non-ionizing radiations. And now we have one of the group exercise, like if you are going on holiday to a hot country with long hours of sunshine, discuss how you will protect yourself from sunburn from the UV light. So it's open for discussion in the chat box. You can put your answers or whatever is coming in your mind. How are you going to protect yourself from sunburn from the UV light? Because you'll be landing and sitting and enjoying under direct sunlight. So how are you going to protect yourself? Take your time and let me know how you respond to it. How you will protect yourself from sunburn from the UV light. And you're going for a long holiday in a hot country. That means a country with high temperature, maybe about 35 degree or 36 degree or maybe more than that. So how are you going to protect yourself from sunburn, especially from UV light? And this is the case for the enjoyment, kind of entertainment, but it is also giving the other side of the picture, like how we gonna take care and give care to our employees if they're working under 40 plus temperature or maybe more than that, especially in summer season. So what precautions we're gonna put for them also to keep them safe, because the health and safety of our employees is also our major responsibility, right? But this question is more like a kind of entertainment question that you are enjoying your leisure time. So in that context, how are you going to protect yourself from sunburn from the UV light? Otherwise, we can move on and see how NEBOSH is guiding us. These are some of the controlling exposure to non-ionizing radiations. And I hope you remember we discussed in the previous slide also different types of radiations, non-ionizing radiations, and the protection methods. Like if it's UV is there, that means we have to cover the exposed skin and protect our eyes. We have sunglasses available as per international standards. Yes, the visible lights and lasers, that means the low class avoid shining in eyes. High class eye protection, shielding, non-reflective surfaces are there. And if infrared rays are there, cover exposed skin and protect your eyes. Microwave and radio waves, that means the safe distance and isolate and lock off. And safe distance, isolate and lock off. So, and even some creams are available, especially, which protects from sunbeams or kind of UV lights. So plenty of solutions now are available from the medical science. But the critical question is how are we going to make sure, especially for our employees who are always mostly working under direct sunlight, especially in construction industries. So how are we going to keep them safe? This is a important question, and also so the government support us, like they stop working from 12 to 3 under terrible temperatures, especially in summer season, maybe for 2-3 months. Same case for Kuwait, same case for other Arab countries, because the temperature is unbearable. Even though they have heat stress plan and plenty of precautions are there, but still they try their level best not to let their employees exposed under terrible temperatures. The types of ionizing radiations, even though we have discussed different types, but here we're going to discuss ionizing radiations now, like alpha particles is kind of a smoke detectors and science labs. Beta particles, that means the science labs and thickness gauges. X-rays, medical radiography and baggage security scanners. Gamma rays we get from industrial radiography for non-destructive testing of metal and welds. And neutrons we get from nuclear power stations. So these are ionizing radiations. Again, 5 categories are there: alpha particles, beta particles, X-rays, gamma rays, and neutrons. The key element is to understand what could be the health effects. Because if we're going to realize there are terrible health effects, we'll definitely give care to ourselves, and we'll try to follow all safety regulations to keep ourselves safe. But let's understand what are the health effects. So we have 2 types of health effects. One is acute health effects, and second one is chronic. Acute and chronic, 2 types of health effects are there. And what are the acute health effects? That means the radiation sickness and diarrhea, hair losses, anemia like red blood cells damage, reduced immune system like white blood cell damage. And if we link this reduced immune system with COVID-19 or coronavirus, the persons having weak immune system, mostly they were caught up and still they are catching up with that particular coronavirus, and mostly the infected people, they have weak immune system. So on the other side, chronic health effects is also there, like cancer, genetic mutations, and birth defects. So some way or another, radiations always give some, not benefit, but in terms of health effects, of course, is damaging actually. But some radiations, of course, they are unavoidable. We have to complete certain processes. Like we can't say, oh, no more X-ray. That means you can't check what is the condition of lungs, or you can't check what is the if there any muscle cramp or skin damage until you do X-ray. Same way for ultrasound and plenty of other things where we are we can't avoid from bearing such kind of radiations, even though under permissible limits, they try their level best. So how are we gonna control the exposure to ionizing radiations? Just remember TDS. TDS means the technical data sheet, but here the meaning is time, distance, and shielding. Either you minimize the exposure time, or you dose proportional to time actually, or you work on distance. Alpha and beta can't travel long distances through air. Other forms obey the inverse square law, or double the distance is equal to quarter the dose. So either you reduce the time or you increase the distance. Otherwise, shield, like we have welding shield, the face shield for our welders. So using materials such as lead as well. So please remember, for ionizing radiations control, time, distance, and shielding are the best methods to control. Now we have group exercise. A pregnant woman in need of an X-ray for a suspected broken bone. Discuss the control measures in the X-ray department of a hospital using time, distance, and shielding to structure your answer. Because pregnant woman means already a sensitive patient, not patient, at least a sensitive personal is there. So in that sense, how are you going to control, especially in the X-ray department, by using time, distance, and
رجعت لهم الحين.
So any idea if anybody voluntarily can discuss what control measures in the X-ray department of a hospital using, like time, distance, and shielding? Because ionizing radiations are there. So how would you respond to this question? What control measures? Like you will do the X-ray as quick as possible, you will reduce the time, or you'll do it one time or two times? How are you going to make sure, and what would be the distance? How are you going to ensure the distance? Same way, the shielding, especially in the X-ray department, because the woman is pregnant. Even the child could be in trouble if we don't use proper controls in shape of time, distance, and shielding. Anything coming on your mind, or we will see what NEBOSH is guiding us? Or here I can put one more example, like if you have arc welding is going on, how all three methods you're going to implement, like time, distance, and shielding for your arc welding process to keep your employees safe, or reducing the impact of the radiations. Are you going to let them do their job for 12 hours a shift? Or you'll make some rules, okay, do 1 hour welding, take 20 minutes break, or same like we have heat stress plan in summer season. So what could be your rules for arc welding process, and how are you going to ensure the distance, and what about the shielding? That's mean the face shield and plenty of other mechanism is there which we can implement, time, distance, and shielding. So take the welding process as an example, and let me know how you're going to implement time, distance, and shielding methods, or take example of your workshop, any welding process, or any process where you believe some radiations are there, how you are controlling, how you are putting this rules for time, distance, and shielding. You can share your example also, one of the Sadara's processes. Like if I ask straightforwardly, how much time maximum you allow to a welder to do welding continuously, for 3 hours, for 4 hours, for 1 hour? Or you have no rules, which I'm not expecting, by the way. So you are a role model, mashallah. Okay, guys, whenever there is ionizing radiations, there are regulations, especially ionizing radiations regulation 2017. That means the dose limits on exposure, general public below 1 millisievert per year, or workers below 20 millisievert per year. So the regulation required that a risk assessment be carried out. This should be done by a competent person. Like in Saudi Aramco projects, mostly wherever the radiations are involved, they have radiographic permit, and also, radiation protection officer to be hired, and just check the salary of radiation protection officer and check the process, how you're going to be approved from Saudi Aramco as a radiation protection officer. It's not easy. It's just like that you are going to be approved like a scientist, because plenty of GIs you have to study and understand, and then exams need to be passed after getting scheduled from Saudi Aramco, and you'll be lucky enough if you get approval as a radiation protection officer. But anyhow, a radiation protection advisor and radiation protection supervisors may also need to be appointed. Let's talk about radon gas, like naturally occurring radioactive gas, alpha particle radiation, that means the ionizing radiation. So plenty of health effects are there, especially like outside body, not particularly hazardous, but inside body inhalation increase risk of lung cancer. So maybe short term people don't realize, but long term it would be a source of lung cancer. Now, where naturally occurring levels are high, outside low concern, inside poorly ventilated workplaces, especially basements. So any place which is poorly ventilated, and also we can consider our confined spaces, because those also have limited entry and exit, and also limited ventilation. So how are we going to control this risk above the action level? We have to take a survey, appoint a radiation protection supervisor, introduce some engineering controls like positive pressure air fans, so redundant sumps and extraction systems, so we can reduce the magnitude or kind of volume of radon gas from that poorly ventilated places. What are the basic radiation protection strategies? Basic protection strategies that apply in all cases. What we have to do, eliminate exposure so far as it's reasonably practicable. Reduce exposure to the lowest level, reasonably practicable. Do not exceed the relevant radiation dose limits, and risk must be assessed by the competent person, and training and information is critically important. And yes, we must have some health surveillance also. Role of monitoring and health surveillance, there are different type of examination include, and now you can double check within your Sadara medical records that either you are having some skin checks or respiratory checks or exposure records or sickness records to monitor and to have some health surveillance. Now we are going to discuss about mental ill health, 5.4. And this is a little bit, subject relevant to psychology also, but still let's understand why we as a safety leader have to be psychiatrist also. Not like a mental doctor, but at least as a psychiatrist. Because the prevalence of mental ill health within the workplace, look at the numbers, 440,000 cases of work-related stress, depression or anxiety in 2017 and 18. That means 1800 per 100,000 people are facing stress, depression and anxiety. And if they are emotionally weak, they can do anything, maybe a suicidal attempts also. So 239,000 new cases, incident rate 720 per 100,000, 15.4 million days lost, average 25.8 days per case. That means a horrible loss in shape of days, and that means more delays in the project, less will be the productivity, and more dissatisfactory customers, because we can't give them any excuses. Account for 44% of work-related ill health cases and 55% of all working day lost due to ill health. Now, in your lost time injuries or your calculations of safe man hours, along with that, we truly need to evaluate how many hours we lost because of mental ill health. Like people are not coming because they are having terrible stress or kind of anxiety or depression because of any reasons, maybe because of over workload or excessive workload from the company side, or maybe some issues from the family side, or in one of my training class I was teaching this, we call it WPR, work permit receiver classes for Saudi Aramco contractors. And one of the guy immediately, he attended a call and requested me to let me go out. So I want to, because it's an emergency call. So I told him, okay, go be relaxed. Don't worry about it. And the moment he came back, I noted terrible depression and anxiety. And I asked, I stopped training and I asked him, is everything is okay? So he mentioned one of my friend, he attempted suicide and now he is hospitalized. And the reason is just the supervisor shouted on him without any reason. And he was emotionally very much attached with that supervisor, so he never thought that he would be angry with him at any time. Since he was not emotionally intelligent, self-control was very weak, so he attempted suicide because my supervisor is unhappy and he shouted on me without any solid reasons. So don't think if you are emotionally strong or intelligent, the same way all employees would be. After all, we are human beings, not robots, right? So we have feelings, and the sensitive part is every human being have a common nature, like to be respected and appreciated. If these two things or pillars are not there, the person would be under pressure or depression or feeling some stress or having a lot of anxiety, and look at the result, look at the outcome, how much, like 15.4 million days lost, so average 25.8 days per case. And 44% of all work-related ill health cases and 55% of all working is lost due to ill health. Like you have 500 employees and 100 employees are mentally ill at your site, it's a terrible, I would say, the danger zone for your projects as well. Now, what is anxiety? Basically, is a kind of feeling of unease, such as worry or fear, that can be mild or severe. It could be psychological, it could be physical symptoms, and long-term anxiety can also lead to serious ill health, or maybe hypertension or heart disease. And this anxiety also linked with the panic disorder, having panic attacks, and even go to traumatic event or depression, And to be very honest, not a single person would be there who's gonna say, I don't have any anxiety. Everybody has some level of stress, anxiety, some challenges. But the key part we truly have to understand, they are not strong like you, mentally or emotionally or spiritually. Everyone is not equal. So any person who is emotionally weak or unable to bear the level of anxiety or stress or pressure, he can attempt and he can do any silly things, even at your project site. So it's a huge risk. And the problem is you have to play a role like a psychiatrist to understand, like a face reading and the body language and the way they are acting on site. And then you can identify and ask and have some one-to-one counseling and just give them some energy. That is why before starting the project, we always have 1-minute meeting for motivation. And we request them, please leave all your worries out of this project territory and come with the full focused mind. So you all will be safe. Otherwise, if a mind is already in tension, definitely the probability of accident will go up. If more employees are worried at the project site or they are having terrible stress, so the probability of accident would also go up. So it's vice versa. If more happier employees we have, more healthier employees we have, better the quality, better the productivity, and of course we'll have better outcome, performance every day. Now, depression is kind of feelings of extreme sadness, despair, or inadequacy, or get lost for a long time. One of our employee, while I was working as a QHSC manager with Olayan Group, one of the guy, his mother suddenly expired, died. So he was a scaffolder and working at the platform, like for erection and all that. Now, the moment we got that news, I personally went there. I requested him to come down and, I need to discuss something with you. I brought him back to the office, gave him a glass of water, uh, you know, highlighted the possibilities that this life have one-way journey. So no one is going to coming back. So everybody have to move on from this temporary word for sure to the next word. So just as per my little bit knowledge about Islamic principles, so I shared something and motivated him, and then I shared that news. What I mean is, it was so much difficult even for me to share that news with him. And imagine if someone else, if gonna go there and he is erecting, he's in process, and now from the downside you are giving him a news, oh, your mother is expired, come down. So with that, shocking news or terribly sad news, because we all are so much attached with our mother, with our father, right? So a sudden sad news, maybe the person can fall down, maybe he can go into the shock, maybe he can be unconscious, and the sudden unconsciousness sometimes lead to death also, maybe a sudden heart attack as well. So sometimes things are really critical how we have to tackle to the depressed or the people having terrible anxieties or facing horrible stresses on the job. That is why empathy is very much important. Sometimes we have to think, oh, they are human. If they're doing some silly mistakes, oh, they are human. So let's try to motivate, let's try to bring them on track and not to put them under trouble. One of the tea boy, just the general manager shouted on him because one or two drops, just fell down on the floor. And he just came at 8:30 and directly shouted on that tea boy. And he couldn't punch him back. But you know what he did? He put fire in the warehouse. And later, the moment company interrogated, they found the reason that the general manager shouted at him without any solid reasons and just, shouted bitterly all the way around. And the person was totally depressed and he couldn't punch back. But that was the revenge what he gonna thought to take up. So this is how people can react. Now, work-related stress could be psychological, could be physical, could be behavior as well, and it's all happened because of excessive pressures. And why excessive pressures? More demands, more expectations. Like company have pressures from customers sometimes because more expectations from the customer side. And if company management is trying to fulfill the expectations of the customer, so the same pressure they're going to deliver and divide to the managers, and managers will transform this pressure to the supervisors, and same way up to the workers. But the key point is either we are taking this stress as a positive stress or normal stress, or we are taking it as a negative stress or abnormal stress. Choice is ours. If our employees are competent enough, or they are the right person for the right job, or they are happier employees because financially they are sound, family is okay, they are the happiest one, so then it's okay. Then the more pressure sometime wouldn't be a problem. But anyhow, there are some health effects like psychological, physical, and behavioral, which can lead to serious ill health, and especially if prolonged. So this is important slide here. Work-related stress can be psychological, physical, behavioral, like anxiety, low esteem, depression. And physical means sweating, fast heartbeat, high blood pressure, skin rashes, muscle tension, headache, dizziness. And behavioral may be sleeplessness, poor concentration, poor decision making, mood swings, irritability, alcohol consumption or drug misuse, or absence from work. So it's all happening because of work-related stress. That is why I suggest to the companies, give them some training on emotional intelligence, give them some training on stress management. Let's share some tools how to manage stresses. Everybody has stress at some level, but how are you going to manage? And I don't remember one of the gentlemen, he mentioned, do you have any problem? Yes. Can you solve it? Yes. Then why worry? You have a problem? Yes. Can you resolve it? No. Then why worry? So if something is out of our control, then still, why should we take terrible stresses and killing ourselves or our families or our nearby colleagues also, or damaging to the company goodwill as well? Because more stressed, terribly stressed employees, that means more chances of incident or accidents. And one accident, we evaluated several times, the overall goodwill of the company is over. And that's why some companies are facing a lot of business issues also because of high rate of accidents and incidents or kind of major injuries. Now we have a group exercise here. Discuss what can cause stress at work. So I'm opening this discussion in the chat box. What can cause stress at work? I'm not expecting bookish knowledge. I'm expecting as per your experience, as per your mashallah intelligence level. What do you think? What can cause stress at work? So let's learn from our experience from each other. What can cause stress at work? And please feel free to share all your feelings or your understandings. So let's learn from each other. Discuss what can cause stress at work. So the number one, like Mr. Muhammad Al-Gamji, mashallah, he mentioned working long hours. Okay. And yes, it's a straightforward reality because sometimes we work long hours. Our duty hours, what we agree is 8 hours. But because of excessive workload, because of top management expectations, sometimes we are sitting long hours. And next day, our productivity also goes down, and especially monitoring critical jobs also, it gives some stress because smallest mistake, boom, it's all over. I totally agree. Especially if someone is a plant inspector in a oil and gas refinery or USP plants, and he's the plant inspector and all the time wanting here and there and making sure no leaking, no damage, all readings are okay and nothing will go down. Nothing terribly coming out of the pipelines or no toxic fumes. So all the time is active one. But yes, it's a critical monitoring. Same way if someone is doing NDT testing, non-destructive testing or some other, or working in a terrible confined spaces and having some monitoring responsibilities, of course, it can also create stress. That a smallest mistake, terrible outcome would be there. Any other opinion, please? Little bit energy I'll need because today is Thursday, then you will have two week offs like Friday and Saturday, and we'll start back on Sunday. So little bit more energy, and let's try to wrap up the session inshallah with better outcome of our understanding of element number 5 at least. Yes, negative work environment. Yes, Mr. Hamad, and to be very honest, this is all happening because of professional jealousy, because of poor leaders, the rude behaviors they have. And sometimes people leave those bosses, not the companies. They don't want to leave the company, but they don't like the immediate boss, And sometimes the leg pulling or, backbiting or always telling some negative stories, even for the good people, good employees. and no motivation from the system itself. And yes, you start feeling some stress and you start feeling alone also. And if while you are doing a lot of hard work, but still if top management is not giving you any appreciation or any kind of importance within the same company, then of course you'll start demotivating, and that demotivation will convert into stress. And that stress, first of all, will be damaging to our health. That is a critical point we need to understand. The stress, even though we are getting from others, is a killing point for us, first of all. So now we have two choices. Either we are going to let that stress to impact our health, or we're going to fight back or find out the right set of solutions, or find out some positive energy to cope up and deal with this negative environment. Otherwise, mostly people, if they can't manage it, if they can't manage the negative work environment, they find out a better place, and move on. Because how long you can bear this stress? Just for the sake of 10,000 real or 20,000 real, how long you can bear this negative environment, That's horrible. And yes, it's common. It's common mostly in companies. And most importantly, if you are not likable personality, or you're not keeping happy to your boss, even that point is enough to have a negative work environment. The rest of all factors are positive. Just one point, your boss is not happy with you, or he doesn't want to be happy with you, and that is enough to kill your day, and every day, by the way. So my question is, how long you can bear this type of negative work environment? How long you can be emotionally intelligent or have some solid determination and fight back with your energies and move on and be successful within the same company? Because sometimes people take it as an opportunity. Oh, there is negative work environment, but what I can do, how I can convert that negative work environment into positive work environment? What things I can do individually, because one man can make a huge difference. But the point is how. But I totally agree, this negative work environment is killing the productivity of high-tech professionals. Even self-motivated professionals, they are being killed because of this negative work environment. And negative environment means sometimes the bad system. And remember, the bad system always will be punching and punishing to the good employees. I repeat again, the bad systems always will be punishing to the right people, to the right employees, to the best employees. But the best systems is really, hard to find actually. But I'm sure the way Sadara, you guys are working, still in that domain, you would also be a role model, mashallah. But yes, small issues every company have. But ultimately, happiness matters. Sometimes I say you are the richest person in the world, but you are not happy. It's all useless. You are the richest person in the world, but no peace in your heart, or no spiritual, happiness within yourself. It's all in vain, So the real wealth is after Iman. As a Muslim, what we believe is the peace. We call it sukoon also. And we found in Allah's zikr, we always read Quran and listen Quran, and this is as a Muslim, our Iman, mashallah. And this is how we are enjoying. Even we have more stresses than anyone else, but still we have some ways how to release that stress. And some people release that stress by doing exercises, sometimes travel, sometimes finding a good friend, sometimes spending more time with the family members. They'll find the way how to release these stresses and come back with again better energies. And why, Mr. Hamad, I am discussing more on negative environment, because this is also killing the productivity of a country, the growth of a country, growth of a company even. And these negative environments is really hard to demolish, or really hard to eliminate, or to improve or convert negative environment into positive, because it's kind of a culture, and culture needs more time to change. You can't change overnight the culture of your company, right? Thank you very much for your input, but let's see what NEBOSH is talking about. How many things are there which cause stress? These are the major causes of stress, like excessive demands. Sometimes you are the best employee. Everybody knows you are the best. But the point is, if you are the best, take more load. Everybody is trying to give, more tasks, especially from the top management, because you are the best employee. So you'll have, the more best you are, more excessive demands you're gonna get. This is another phenomenon I personally also noted. But yes, if you work more, you become more productive. You can accept more higher positions, not only within the same company, maybe in your next move. Lack of control over work, lack of support, poor workplace relationships, and lack of clarity about an individual's role and threat of change and change itself. So these are some of the causes of stress or work-related mental ill health. And sometime in my case, let me give you one example. The moment in one of the company, I joined that company like in 1999, if I remember exactly, as a QHSE coordinator. We call it Quality Health Safety Environment Coordinator. And I was very much excited that I got an official position. So it's a good career. So I'll groom within the same domain. And I'll not leave that domain like as a trainer, as an auditor, as a consultant. So now I made an announcement, kind of announcement. I went to the even general manager and I asked him, I finish my job every day within 2 hours, so give me more work. I mean, you hired me as a QHSC coordinator, so give me customer complaints. Let me deal with some quality issues. Let me deal with some safety relevant issues. Let me audit our suppliers also. So allow me some more responsibilities. And I'll keep our clients more happy. Let me work as a compliance officer also, because I will get the requirements and will make sure every requirement is met and implemented and things are on track as per customer standards also. And the general manager, I still remember, he laughed at me and he didn't speak even a single word. He just laughed at me. And then he mentioned, okay, you go and I'll call you back. And I thought maybe he considers a joke. But anyway, I was expecting surely he will be planning, he'll be thinking. So maybe after 1 or 2 days, he'll call me back. And that's what happened. After 3 days, he called me back and he mentioned, Ishtiyaq, go ahead. Go ahead. You are totally independent. Learn everything about company. Move on week by week and each department. Understand their activities and what is my expectation. If procurement manager is not there, you have to complete on that day his job. If safety manager is not there, you are responsible. Even if a day came, he mentioned, if I'm not here, you have to complete my jobs also. Make some follow-ups and I'll be sharing with all the story with you. And that was the day the learning started, even though the stress gone up. A lot of workload, and I started working late night even, like 8-hour job, but spending 12 hours 13 hours. I'm sitting late night, and everybody was laughing at me because the rest of the employees, they are moving here and there and drinking and enjoying, going cinemas and, you know, having fun. But because of being a passionate learner, I thought it's a good opportunity because I just started my career. So why can't I learn more and more? And a time will come, things would be in my favor. And my friends, just for your motivation, within the same company, a time came, there was a time for layoff because company was not having some better revenue. And in the layoff, they terminated so many employees, but I was indispensable because they have no option, you know, because I was trained in each department and performing my key function as a QHSE coordinator as well. So now choice is yours. Either you want to be indispensable with better skill set, better positive energy and grounds, or you just want to run away from the negative environment. Or the negative environment was also there because mostly people, not only from the manager side, even everybody, you know, my colleagues sometimes, can you do this also? Okay, no problem, I will do it. Even supporting my, you know, so intentionally, luckily, or, you know, naturally, Allah gave me a very positive mindset. And that truly helped me because now I'm not in the same company. Now I've been working in more than 12 countries and more than 100 plus brands. I've been served, Alhamdulillah. Just imagine if I could be like, you know, just avoiding, oh, none of my job. This is not my job. I will not do this. These are only 9 responsibilities. Oh, my package is only that much amount and I will do only 9 responsibilities. I didn't think about my package. And even one of the guy, you know, I still remember, he was our management consultant for the same company, and he mentioned, Ishtiaq, look, since you started your career, don't think about your package for next 3 years. Don't think about earning. Only one word should be in your mind, that is learning. And then after 3 years, you will definitely praying for me. And this is true. Because after 3 years, I changed my job and I had better salary and better, you know, opportunities in the market. And even from that company, I started working as a consultant for other companies also. I was taking projects and just developing their documented structure and getting some part-time income also, you know. So I'm just trying to motivate. Even sometime if things looks very negative for you, still be positive in that context, you know, and see Allah's blessings, inshallah. I hope it will help you to keep you, because stresses are always there. Choice is our, we want to take negatively or using our positive energies as per Allah's blessings to move on, inshallah. Because what I believe, the more you work, the more better professional you're gonna become, you know, for future perspective, inshallah. Now, staying in work is research indicates that the work is good for mental health, and that prolonged absence from work is bad for mental health. So working is health actually. Sitting idle at home make you mentally ill. So the employer should adopt policies and procedures that enable those suffering from mental ill health to remain in work. Most people who mental health problems recover fully or are able to manage the problem and continue to work effectively. Historically, mental health has been stigmatized and also suffered, discriminated against and excluded from work. Work is often the best place for them to be. Equality legislation means it may be illegal to discriminate against someone with a mental health problem. So we truly have to avoid from discrimination. Now, what are the control measures? HSE management standards approach use the 6 causes as the framework for risk assessment. Understand the demands, control, support, relationship, role, and change. And let's discuss one by one what are the demands. Like how are we gonna control the demands? Reasonable demands, sufficient resources. If you're getting responsibilities, make sure you get relevant authorities as well as required resources. Imagine if you have only responsibilities but no authorities, no required resources, then it's horrible. But if you have responsibilities plus authorities plus required resources, then you become accountable. Now you can't give any excuses, right? Now control, given as much control as possible. Support, you have to give some informations, instruction, training, and additional support so people can do better. Relationships, clear anti-harassment, and bullying policies. And several brands I noted, they have zero tolerance bullying policy. They will kick you out, whosoever you are, if habitually you have that bad habit to bullying people. Or harassment is also not being accepted at all. Role, clear job description, responsibilities and authority, and change planning and preparation for change, communication and time scales. So these are some of the stress control measures. So these are the questions already was answered in the previous slides. What is stress and what are the three categories of mental health effect or that can result from stress? What are the causes of workplace stresses? We discussed already. Let's talk about another important topic, which is work-related violence. It's a very sensitive subject for sure, Now, work-related violence, one picture is more loaded than 1,000 words. Look at the picture. Any incident in which a person is abused, threatened, or assaulted in circumstances relating to their work. Sometimes say life is a name of failures, setbacks. No choice is yours. You're gonna make them the steps for your success, or you will destroy yourself under those pressures. But yes, life will give you a lot of failures, stresses, incidents gonna happen. Sometimes your manager could be shouting on you without any reason, but still life has to move on. But how are you gonna deal with all such kind of circumstances? But yes, work-related violence is kind of illegal activity. If you are abusing someone or threatening or assaulting in any circumstance, especially if it is relevant to your work, then even in any way, it's not acceptable, any kind of work-related violence. Now, what are the risk factors for violence? Might be you're dealing like cash handling, loan working, representing authority, or wearing a uniform, or dealing with people under stress, or dealing with people under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or censoring or saying no. So what occupations are most at risk of work-related violence? I'm opening this question in the chat box. The occupations are most at risk of work-related violence. Work-related violence, occupations where we have more work-related violence. Opening this question for all of you, and I hope we'll have better understanding. Let's see. Yes, guys, what are the occupations or professions or the jobs where we have more work-related violence? They are most at risk also. Yes. Excellent. Security, because they are kind of a front leader also. All the positive, negative, any sort of visitor, they are the one first of all going to deal with. Any other profession or occupations, please? And how are we going to control them? But firstly, let's identify the occupations which are most at risk of work-related violence. Like Mr. Al-Ghamdi mentioned, the security. Then same way, medical jobs like doctors and nurses. Mhm. Okay. Anyone else? Think about out of your company also. Think about as a country also, like what other professions or occupations always are at risk for work-related violence. Think about your policemen, your security agencies, your health officials like the medical jobs. So look at the risk factors for violence, so hospital, accident and emergency staff, police, social workers, bus and taxi drivers, firefighters and paramedics, traffic wardens, railway staff and teachers. Risk factors for violence. Now, what are the control measures? We can discover the extent of the problem by collecting and analyzing incident reports, interviewing staff formally or informally. That means staff surveys would also be helping. Sometimes we conduct a survey and it should be done from HR side, human resources department of the company. And what they're going to do is they'll issue one kind of a format and they will ask plenty of questions. Are you happy within Sadara? Are you facing any violence? Are you facing any stress? Are you happy with your salary package? So I hope you got the point. So they will put several questions and try to understand the satisfaction level of all the employees and bringing some red zone areas to be focused to improve their company culture and to retain their employees also. Like you will not stay in Sadara if they will not give you your next 5 years career development plan or your next 5 years goals, in shape. Okay, if you will achieve these KPIs, that would be your position, that would be your package. If third year, if you perform those KPIs, few more, that would be your position, that would be your package. If you will not give them, the key leadership positions, especially their next, I would say, the career development plan within the same company, it would be harder to retain them. If you will not put them in your plan, they would have their self plans, to move on. And that is why sometimes the talented employees, they don't stay. They don't stay because nothing is left to learn more within the same company. They don't stay because the system is not motivating them. They don't stay because they are assuming that no more future within the same company. So they can't work in the same small circle. They want to be the C player, kind of ocean player in the world. So they can't work in a small circle. They will not stay if you as a leader unable to retain them and keep them motivating all the way around. That Sadara is the best company. So in next 10 years, you will be reaching up here if you will do the same level of hard work. Now, what are the control measures for violence, especially at the central office? Zero tolerance and prosecution. Security staff, you can apply and install CCTVs, which we mostly have now, security doors. Minimize queues and waiting times. Display waiting times and training screens, panic alarms, and also pleasant environment. So these are some of the control measures for violence. And conducting home visits, that means no work in high risk areas. Incident records are there, vetting customers, visit logging, pre and positive communications. Training communication means GPS, no visits after dark, not carrying cash or valuable. So the last topic of element 5 is the substance. That means substance abuse at work. Now here, few of the questions we need to ask: what sort of substances might workers abuse that might have consequences at work? What signs might you see that a person has a problem? Why is this a health and safety concern? What can our organization do about this issue? Because sometimes people are addicted with several things. Might be they're gonna drink some syrups, more quantity. Might be they're gonna drink some thinner or any sort of chemical even. You never know. Or maybe they will be addicted with some smell of any chemical. They like to it and their body, their mind is addicted to it. Might be they are chain smoker. They can't live without smoking. Might be they have screen addiction also. And another way around, like, they're addicted with mobile screen, or every 5-10 minutes they have to see their mobile. So how are you going to tackle them? But in this context, it's all we have to link that they are health and safety concerns and how organization have to do something about it. So these are some of the types of substances abuse at work, like alcohol, taken at lunchtime at work or still in a worker system from the night before. Legal drugs, prescription or over-the-counter, non-prescription prescription drugs, illegal drugs controlled, such as heroin, cannabis or cocaine, or solvents like sniffing substances such as a glue, solvent cleaners, and paint spray cans. So these are some of the types of solvents or substances abused at work. Now, what are the other general signs? Maybe late attendance. Mostly the concerned person is coming late. Increased absenteeism can also highlight. Poor work quality, reduced output, dishonesty, theft potentially to fund a habit, irritability and mood swing, and deterioration in working relationship. So these are some of the general signs. So we have to keep an eye on how the behavior of a person is getting changed. Now, effects on safety performance, definitely the sensory impairment because of this drug abuse and skewed perception, impaired motor control, fatigue and drowsiness, and increased risk for driving, operating machinery, and making decisions. Because if a person is not in senses, how come he can drive safely or operating a machine in a better way and giving the right production or ensuring zero injuries or making the right set of decisions, So yes, there must be a drugs and alcohol policy, that no alcohol at work or during working hours. The statutory legal requirements, e.g. like drink, drive laws. No statutory requirements set by the employer except for workers to rehabilitation and treatment. Disciplinary procedures, information, instruction and training of managers, supervisors and workers. Random drug and alcohol testing, legal and ethical implications. So no drug policy, no alcohol policy, or kind of substance abuse policy must be developed, established, implemented, and communicated with all level of the organization. So that was the element number 5, and what we have discussed so far, we discussed about some of the hazards like noise. We discussed the different ways of control to noise. We also discussed about the vibration and their controls, and also non-ionizing and ionizing radiations and their health effects with some controls. We also discussed mental ill health and their causes and preventive measures. We also discussed about work-related violence and their controls, and also the substances abuse at work and risk to health, and most importantly, their control measures as well. So that was all about element number 5. Now, since today is Thursday, so what I'm gonna do is Friday and Saturday, I'll prepare some of the documents, especially to give you an example of your IG1 exam, even though I shared one exam with all of you with some questions. So I will share the best answers. Just an example, you can have a quick understanding how the answer should be look like. And same way, I will be sharing some of the regulations relevant to element number 5. Whatever regulation reference we got in element number 5, I will be finding and downloading and making sure you get it in your WhatsApp group, inshallah. Okay, so far this is all for day 5. Let me know if you want to share, or if there is any question or any kind of concern you want to share with me. So I would be happy to answer. I would be happy to support you.